Greetings to all. Welcome to VMware Administration training session. This is Srinivas and your trainer here. So let's start the session. So today this is the first session about VMware Administration training. Okay. So before going further, just inform about this course details and what is the course contained, what is the time. This VMware Administration training is a weekend batch and it is going to start today. And this is a 2-hour session from 6 p.m. IST to 8 p.m. IST. We are going to have a small breaks in between. And your trainer, myself, Srinivas, and you can find the details. And all the details are provided in WhatsApp group, how to access the course content and what is the payment, how to do the payment and other details. Every details available. Please make sure you are part of WhatsApp group. If you are not part of WhatsApp group, you can send a mail communication to me, or you can send a mail communication to support@logiclabstech.com. My mail ID I'm going to provide on chat window, so you can send a mail communication if you have missed any communication related to VMware training session, so that I can guide you how to reach. Okay, this is my mail ID. I'm providing on this. Srinivas@logiclabstech.com. This is my mail ID. If you miss any content or anything, any information, and if you are not getting any communication related to this training, you can send a mail communication to me, and at the same time you can send a mail communication to support@logiclabs.com. And coming to the course, see, those are the details. For any related queries about the training, about the payment, or any details, if you are not part of WhatsApp group, you can coordinate on this communication on these details which I'm providing on the screen. So this first 2 sessions, like today and tomorrow, each day 2-hour session is going to take place, and these first 2 days are free, and these sessions available on YouTube. Admin team is going to upload on YouTube, and links will be provided. Once the recording session is available, the link will be provided in WhatsApp group to review and go through that recording sessions. From 3rd session onwards, whoever registered for this training, those will get a separate link to attend this training session. So as I mentioned, today and tomorrow are free sessions. From next 3rd session onwards, whoever paid, whoever registered, they will get a separate web link to join these training sessions. So each and every details will be available on WhatsApp group. If you are not joining on WhatsApp group, you can join on this particular link. I'm going to paste on this chart window, so you can click on this. If you are not able to join, or if you find any difficulty to join this WhatsApp group, you can if you want to speak up, please raise your hand, and so that I can unmute yourself to allow to talk. Okay. Yes, Karthik, please, you raise your hand. Hello, Karthik. Okay. Hello, Ashwant.
Yeah, the chat window is not visible. When I open, it says the chat disabled.
Chat window is not visible.
Yeah.
Okay. You can send a mail communication so that I'm going to mention in the screen so that you can. Are you able to see information? See, for VMware
Yes.
training technical related queries, you can send a mail communication to srinivas@logiclabstech.com. This is my mail ID.
Okay.
And if any admin related queries, other than technical training related queries, you can send a mail communication to support@logiclabstech.com. And at the same time, you can call on these numbers. Whatever the numbers are displayed over here, you can call on this number.
Okay.
Okay. If you are done, please mute yourself. Yeah. Let me continue. So this is a WhatsApp group. So even if you are not part of WhatsApp group, as per the video link, you can find my mail ID and you can send it across. Whatever the query, it may be technical, it may be related to admin. I'm going to coordinate with the respective team and get back to you. Okay. So all the sessions, whatever the sessions we are delivering here, it will be recorded. And this record is available for lifetime for registered members. And first two sessions will be available on YouTube. You can review this first two sessions on YouTube for free. From third session onwards, whoever registered, they are going to get access to these recorded sessions for lifetime. Okay. So Logic Lab support team is available Monday to Saturday between 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. IST. They can be reached over this support@logiclabstech.com, or you can call on these particular numbers. What are the numbers you are able to see here on the screen? If you want to speak up, if you want to raise any issues or anything, you can raise your hand so that I can allow you to unmute yourself so that you can speak up and you can ask your query. Okay. So as soon as you raise your hand, I'm going to allow you to speak up. Okay. Hope it is clear. This is all this related fact details. General information is provided here. Okay. So be part of WhatsApp group. Whoever join, whoever reviewing this recording session on YouTube, if you are not part of WhatsApp group, please send a mail communication to srinivas@logiclabstech.com. This is my mail ID. At the same time, you can send a mail to support@logiclabstech.com. Hope it is clear. Moving further, VMware Administrator. What we are going to discuss about this training. This training is meant for VMware vSphere Data Center Virtualization, that is DCV. 6.x and 7.x. We are going to overview on latest version, that is 8.0 as well. So there are multiple products are available under VMware. VMware vSphere Data Center Virtualization is a key component for all other products. Whatever the VMware portfolio is available, any other portfolio, the key thing that we need to understand what is the vSphere Data Center Virtualization. By using this data center virtualization only, other products are going to come into picture. We are going to explore what are the other products, how it is related to this VMware vSphere Data Center Virtualization. As part of this training, we are going to learn about data center virtualization, that is DCV, 6.x and 7.x and 8.0, that is the latest version. Okay, what is today's agenda? Just introduction, the course content, what we are going to cover as part of this training, and the training procedure, how we are going to deliver, and what is a lab you are going to get along with this training modules, and how this lab, how to access, and there's some key sessions I'm going to present for understanding to proceed further. And then we are going to cover some basic concepts. This is about today's agenda. Before proceeding further, let me introduce myself. Myself, Leela Srinivas. You can call me Srinivas. Having 22 years of IT industry experience, started my career as from the customer support executive to different layers, different levels, and as a technical lead, as a consultant, and as a manager. I work on different layers in IT industry. Sorry. Coming to VMware, I have been working since 2007 onwards. I'm working on this VMware product. So my oldest legacy version, that is 3.5 onwards, I'm working on this VMware products. So total 15 years of experience in VMware and 60 years of experience in delivering the training sessions on VMware and Windows and other technical modules, ITL process, Windows and VMware and cloud. So the vast experience is there. The training session is designed in such a way that to cover from the scratch, like you can understand the hardware basic components and all those things I'm going to explain. So I can try to explain according to your level of understanding. That's my guarantee. That's my commitment to provide this training. So I am certified professional VCP from 4, 5, 6, 7, and latest network virtualization as well. This is about myself. So I would like to hear from you. Whoever would like to present about yourself, you can raise your hand. Whoever is already allowed, you can speak up just your name, experience, and what is the current technology you are working. What is your expectation? Please. You can unmute yourself and speak up. Your name, what is your experience, what is your expectation about this training? You can. Or else shall I call few members? It is not possible to each and everyone. I can call few members so that we can understand what is the expectation, what their portfolio, and what is the requirement. Let me call upon. Yeah, please, you can unmute. Yashwant, you can unmute yourself and speak up. Yashwant?
Hello.
Yashwant, yes.
Currently, I am working on the IBM backup products for the also which includes the VMware also backups and restores. So from that perspective, I am looking at this training to understand more about the VMware administration so that this backup restore part can be handled effectively.
Great, Yashwant.
This is what my expectation. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Welcome to the training session. I'll make sure to reach your expectation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karthik? You can unmute yourself. Yes, Karthik. I hope I am audible. I'm not hearing anything, Karthik. Anil, you can unmute yourself and then you can speak up. Okay, last participant, Shiva.
Hello.
Yes, Karthik.
Hello.
Yes, who is speaking?
Hi, Srinivas. This is Shiva.
Hi, Shiva. Yes, please.
We are currently working with TCS for a Microsoft support project,
Hi,
and
Srini. Am I audible now?
yeah, I'm looking to shift my technology into the VMware.
Okay, great. And this is the right platform to learn, and I am going to
Hello.
explain how to the training and how the training module. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Shiva. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Srinivas. Thank you.
Yes, Karthik, you can speak up. You are audible. Karthik? Okay. One last call. Mahesh? You can unmute yourself and speak up.
Hello.
Yes, please. Okay, let's proceed with the session. The introduction is over. We are going to come back if any questions are going to come into picture. Okay. How about course details? The course details, as I mentioned, it is related to VMware vSphere data center virtualization. The key component which we are going to discuss about 7.0, we are going to explain how this 7.0 to deploy, to install, and all those components, what are the components under data center virtualizations are going to come into picture. So everything is going to come under this particular point. Just a moment, someone raise their hands. Yes, please, Badsha. You can unmute yourself. You can unmute and speak up. Have you raised the hand? If you know, if no query, please don't raise your hand. If you have any query, you can raise so that you can unmute yourself and then speak up. You are allowed to speak up. Okay. Let me proceed. So as part of course, we are going to cover the key components of virtualization, data center virtualization of 7.0. To proceed with 7.0, we are going to cover from 6.5 onwards, because currently every environment is running on 6.5 and 6.7. As these products are going to end of support, end of technical support by this October, so each and every enterprise environment are looking for upgrading their environment from legacy version to latest version, either 7.0 or 8.0. So if you understand, we are going to start with 6.5 onwards, and we are going to understand what are the components are available under 6.5, and then we are going to upgrade from 6.5 to 6.7 or 6.5 to directly to 7.0. How to upgrade, what are the key components, what we need to check, what are the prerequisites, all those things we are going to cover as part of this course details, as part of this training module. and starts with the basic why virtualization and the type of virtualization. Bare metal architecture, we call it as a hosted architecture. What is this VMware? Is it a bare metal or hosted architecture? We are going to explore. And virtualization vendors, what are the different vendors are supporting virtualization layer, hypervisor layer, we are going to discuss about. And hardware basics. Without understanding hardware basics, understanding virtualization, it is a little tricky, little difficult situation, because virtualization is nothing but we are going to create a virtual machine, virtual system. What is a system? A system is nothing but a 5 major components like the motherboard, the processor, memory, storage, and network. If we have these 5 components, we are going to call that as a system. Now, these 5 components, the system, whatever you are looking at physically, how you are going to virtualize. Without understanding, without visualize the physical component, you are not in a position to visualize, imagine the virtual component. That's what we are going to discuss about. What are the hardware basic components, how it looks like, how the server models, what are the different types of server models. Okay, all those things we are going to. And we have a lab. We are going to practice our lab on Dell PowerEdge rack servers. We have our lab environment is configured with Dell PowerEdge rack servers. We are going to showcase what are the Dell PowerEdge servers we are having a lab. So we are going to directly access the physical server, and you are going to configure, you are going to power on, power off, and enter to the BIOS, how we are going to install from the scratch. All those things we are going to practice in our lab. I'm going to showcase in the training session. Once the training session is completed, the record session will be available lifetime. And this lab, whatever the lab we are going to provide, that lab is available for 30 days. So you can, any number of times, 24/7, the lab will be available to practice. This is a unique feature which Logic Labs technology is providing for training engineers. So you can practice this kind of feature. You are not in a position to perform activity and live environment. You can do R&D, how to do, how to access, how to install. Most of the members not in a position to perform in a live environment. So you can use this lab, that is Dell PowerEdge rack servers, how to connect, how to access remotely. All those things we are going to explore in lab. As soon as whoever registered, they are going to get a lab access details, like how to connect, where to connect, and what is the credentials. Everything will be shared individually so that they can connect the lab environment and do the practice. One more important thing is that this is a public IP. Whatever the lab, we are going to provide the jump server, that Windows RDP server. That server can be accessible from anywhere. The only thing is that you should have an internet access. That's more than enough. If you have internet access, you can connect from anywhere. Once you connect to the Windows session, from there you can access whatever the lab we are going to provide. That is Dell PowerEdge rack server. Once you have the access to Dell PowerEdge rack server, you are good to go to perform any kind of operation. Okay, so that once lab is available, you can practice live installation, configuration, troubleshooting, and ESXi and vCenter server. We are going to start 6.5 onwards, understanding each and everything under 6.5, and then upgrade that 6.5 to 6.7. So you are going to get exposed to upgrade. How do we perform upgrade? One version to the next version. Like similar way, we are going to explore, we are going to upgrade from 6.7 to 7.0, similar way 8.0. Okay, so under this module, we are going to explore what is a VM, what is a VMFS, what is a vSwitch, what is a distributed switch, what is a cluster features, high availability, distributed resource schedule or DRS, and many more. All those things are going to cover as part of this course content. So upgrade scenarios, as I mentioned, we are going to start with 6.x onwards. So we are not going to install 5.x. We are going to start with 6.x, that is 6.5, and how to upgrade to 7.0. From 7.2, how to upgrade to 8.0. The upgrade scenarios, what are the things we need to consider? What are the things, how we plan? All those things we are going to discuss during the upgrade. And at the same time, we are going to explore how to perform a migration conversion from physical server to virtual or any virtual platform to VMware virtual, that is V2V, virtualization to virtualization. What is a V2V? From any virtualization, other flavor, other vendor, maybe Microsoft, maybe Citrix, from other vendor of virtualization, how we are going to convert to VMware virtualization, that is V2V. P2V is nothing but a physical machine to virtualization. How we are going to perform, that we are going to explore. And very much important component, that is VMware Update Manager. The same Update Manager, latest version, they are converted, they named as Lifecycle Manager. If you understand what is Update Manager, I'm going to explain what is Update Manager, all the components under Update Manager. And then we are going to upgrade from 6.7 to 7.0. Therein, we are going to explore the Lifecycle Manager. Okay, the same concept, just they rename the concept of Update Manager to Lifecycle Manager. What we are going to do with the Lifecycle Manager, Update Manager? We are going to perform hardware version upgrade, VMware tools update, ESXi host patch updates, ESXi host upgrades, many more. What are the things, how we are going to configure? This is the main maintenance activity as part of VMware Administrator. And exploring CLI based troubleshooting. Some commands, how to explore, how we are going to connect, put the SSH session, and execute some key commands. How to access console, how to access the shell, what is the difference, what are the logs, how we are going to explore, all those things are going to cover. This is the overview of the course content. The detailed course content is available in WhatsApp group. You can click on that content link and you can explore what are the content we are going to cover as part of this training. You can raise your hand if you have any queries or anything. This is a course content. Any doubts, any clarification on the course content? Is it reaches your expectation or not? Are you looking for any other clarification? Please speak up. Yes, Karthik, you can unmute yourself and speak up.
Hi, Srinivas. Good evening. Am I audible now?
Yeah, Karthik, good evening.
Yeah. Actually, I'm having like I don't have any real-time experience. I did not work in any single organization, but I am working as a freelancer. I know desktop support level and basic networking issues. I have hands-on experience. So how this course going to be helpful for me to move further to improve my career?
Very good question, Karthik. Yes, how it is going to help you? See, you are currently working on desktop servers, desktop systems, and you are going to explore server administration. Server administration basically either Windows administration, Linux administration, or DB for some person is from the backup. They are working on backup technology. Each and everything nowadays it is depends upon virtualization, because even desktops are working on a horizon, VMware horizon. the VDI, virtual desktop infrastructure. How the system is going to virtualize. There won't be any physical system available going forward. Okay, so even you are going to access a virtual desktop, how we are going to access virtual desktop? What is the background? So this is the right platform to understand how we are going to explore. We are going to, so we have to provide either desktop system or we need to provide a server, either Windows or Linux or whatever the OS or DB application or a backup application. All the things are going to run on the virtualization layer. Without understanding virtualization layer, how it is going to play, how we are going to connect, how we are going to connect console, what are the dependency components, all those things are going to cover here. The basic thing is required, you already have a networking knowledge. So generally, as if you speak about administration, administrator should have a basic knowledge of all things like networking, should have a basic knowledge, storage, basic knowledge, and administration. Once you have a small knowledges, you can conclude and consolidate it together, and you can work on the whatever the desktop systems or the server system you are going to work on. Without having that basic knowledge, you are not going to work. So why these systems? The systems are no physical components now. Everything is virtualized. So without understanding virtualization layer, having this kind of network knowledge or system support, how you are going to connect, how you are going to troubleshoot. Okay. So this is the right place to learn about virtualization. Okay. After this virtualization, the next component is a cloud. The cloud, we are going to get a component like EC2, the virtual instance. How it is going to get? The front end, back end is virtualization layer, hypervisor layer. So everything, if you understand from the scratch, OS administration, virtualization, and then cloud, so that it is the right path to perform your duties with very effectively.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other queries by anyone? Okay, let me proceed. Training procedure. This is previously we discussed about what is this course content. The detailed course content you can go to that WhatsApp group. In the WhatsApp group, they provided a course content link. You can click on that course content link and you can download a PDF file wherein it clearly mentioned one by one. So you can explore what other things are going to cover. I'm going to cover according to your understanding level and according to your experience and how we are going to correlate in our live environment so that it is easy to understand. You can perform your day-to-day operations very effectively. Okay. And who are looking for changing the environment, this is the right learning. We have to keep on learning. If you having only single one technology, it is not going to fulfill your career position. So we have to learn, we have to upskill virtualization, we need to learn cloud, we need to learn cloud further topics so that we have to upskill our knowledge, our skill set, then only we are in the market and we can sell ourselves in a better way. We are going to get a better package or you can switch our company so that you are going to expose yourself. You can present yourself in a better way. Okay. You can sell yourself to get a better package. Okay. So we have to upskill our topics, our technical skills. Okay. Keep learning, happy learning. Okay. Coming to the training procedure, all are live and interactive session. It is not just a video play or anything. I'm going to provide a live samples, live installations, live configuration and troubleshootings, everything on live and in day-to-day sessions. And each and every session is a kind of recorded. So Even if you miss one session, no need to worry. That session is available record, so you can play that record and understand the topic. So it is very easy to proceed further. If there is no hurry to miss the session or no hurry to not missing understanding. If you are not understanding the beauty of these recording sessions, you can play at any time and review whatever the doubt. And at the same time, you can come back. You can send a mail to me so that I'm going to clarify your doubt. And at the same time, if you practice in a lab session and you stuck up with something, and then you can send or you can discuss on next day session, this is the error I received. I'm not in a position to proceed further. We can discuss in next session, or else you can send a mail communication by taking the screen capture, whatever the error you are going to get. I'm in a position to respond to your query as soon as possible. So all are live and interactive sessions. Okay. That's what each session will be recorded and uploaded along with the notes. We are going to discuss some live samples, live explanations. I'm going to mention while explaining each and everything. I'm going to put down here that concepts. So you can refer the notes and recorded session both so that it is easy to understand. So the session will be recorded and at the same time it will be uploaded for lifelong. You can access that record, and at the same time along with the record there is a note file also will be uploaded along with that. So one-to-one interaction and correlates with your live environments, how your live environment, how this lab environment you can practice according to. You may not get option to practice certain things on live environment, production environment. You are not allowed to do, but we are providing a lab environment wherein you can do from each and everything. So it is very easy. Okay, that's what Logic Labs Technologies provides: live installation configuration on enterprise class server hardware, that is Dell PowerEdge rack server. We have in our lab Dell PowerEdge rack servers. I'm going to showcase what are the Dell PowerEdge rack servers, wherein you can connect that server virtually or remotely, and you can do your explore, knowledge explore. What is this remote management? How we are going to connect? You may not get this kind of options in live environment or any kind of VMware trainings modules which are provided outside. Logic Labs Technology is providing unique feature. We are providing live installations, configuration, troubleshooting, and physical server, that is Dell PowerEdge rack server. Okay, I'm going to showcase it. Lab access will be provided to each and every one registered user. They are going to receive user credentials and where to connect, how to connect. All those details will be shared on the mail communication whoever registered. This lab access 24/7, you can do at any time. You can power on, power off, you can install multiple times. Okay, so I'm going to provide instructions how to do, how to access, and all those things. And customized training sessions also available, like what are the training here we are conducting on a weekend batch. Similar way, if anyone is looking for customized training sessions available for according to perform their day-to-day operation. Only thing is that you need to coordinate with the admin team. Whatever the requirement, you can explain your requirement to admin team. Admin team will coordinate with the trainer and provide a customized training for individuals or a group of members. That option is also available. So if you have any kind of query, you can reach our technical coordinators. They are happy to assist you to provide any kind of details. Okay, this is a training procedure. So we are in whatever the agenda we discussed, we are on the same modules. Okay, so let me proceed with next. This is Dell PowerEdge. How we are going to, I'm going to showcase you how we are going to connect. This is a remote desktop session which we are going to provide to each and every registered user. We are going to connect this remote desktop session and we are going to provide credentials, details, and all those things. Once you connect to this lab, you are in a position to access to this particular servers. Whatever the servers we are going to showcase, everything you are in a position to access. How it is going to be? There's a physical server. See here, we have Dell R630. This is a Dell PowerEdge server, physical server, and you can log in. This is a remote management card. I'm going to explain what is this remote management card and all those things. Just I'm showcasing. This is one hardware and one more hardware, Dell R820. This is one more hardware is available in our lab. So you are going to access one of the hardware. Both are same thing. You are going to explore how to enter into the BIOS, how you are going to connect console. That is what we are going to practice. These are without consoling, we are not in a considered as a VMware administrator. Okay, because all physical servers are located in a remote location. We should be in a position to connect remotely that physical server. How we are going to connect? What is the important feature we should know? All those things I'm going to explain. So these are the two PowerEdge rack servers are available in our lab. So this is a way we can see what is the server, PowerEdge R630, and you can explore what is the CPU capacity, what is the memory capacity, and all those things for R630 and R820. This is a physical server. This is where you are, sorry, you are going to practice your lab. Okay. So this is all about the lab modules. That's what I mentioned here. R820, R630, these lab modules are available. And how to access, this is one of the key sessions you are going to explore. How to connect the remote management card, how to click, where to click, how we are going to mount, how we are going to start installation, everything I'm going to showcase, and you are in a position to practice by looking at this recorded video. Okay, how do we configure RAID controller? You are going to explore how do we configure RAID, what is a RAID, what is the importance of RAID. So we are going to explore and we are going to configure RAID configuration as well. And we are going to start with ESXi host installation. We are going to hands-on practice. Without practice, there is no sense of having a lab. So you are going to do the hands-on practice on this lab. Okay. So how we are going to access, how we are going to install ESXi host, how we are going to install vCenter server, all those things we are going to explore by looking at this installation. These are the key training modules, screen captures, which I captured in the training modules, which we are going to cover on upcoming sessions. Okay, these all are upcoming sessions slides. Okay, how it look like vCenter. What are the objects? Each object, where to go, where to click to get a desired function. So we are going to explore. We are going to create each and every object, every component, and understanding what is the necessity of HA and what is the necessity of DRS. All those things we are going to explore as part of this training. I'm going to explain what are the things are going to cover with the detailed information. As this is a demo session to understand what it is going to cover and how it is going to access. Each and every session is a live and going to explain each and everything detailed manner. You can ask, you can practice. Okay. So even P2V and V2V, how we are going to do, we are going to perform through VMware vCenter converter standalone. We are going to install. How we are going to install, how we are going to perform P2V, V2V by using standalone converter. And see, this is the update manager. How we are going to create a baseline, how we are going to import updates, how we are going to create a ESXi baselines, image baselines. What is the difference between update manager and lifecycle manager? We are going to see and we are going to explore and you are going to practice. You are going to create a baseline. You are going to perform upgrade from one version to the next version. This training module, as well, it is going to cover from L1 to L3 layer. You can perform L1 operations, you can perform L2 operations by going through these training modules. You can perform L3 operations. Okay, so how do we configure, how do you troubleshoot? All those things are going to come into this picture. Okay. So see, this is the upgrade of vCenter server from 6.x to 7.x. What are the options are going to consider? What are the pre-requirements? How we are going to perform upgrade? Through update manager, we are going to perform, through update lifecycle manager, we are going to perform this upgrade of ESXi host. How we are going to perform upgrade vCenter server? Everything is going to cover as part of this training module. This is all about the key components of the training module. Any questions, any queries on this course content, the way of the training module is designed. So yes, please, you can, 1 second. You can unmute yourself. Yes.
Yeah, I think am I audible? No?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, Sudhakar, X Lakshminarayana.
Yes.
One at a time,
Yeah,
please.
correct. Yeah. My question it is, this actually the who are working in DevOps engineer are the cloud associate level of that. How much this training can help them, or is it mandatory to learn this training as well?
If you are working on cloud DevOps, you are maybe applying some cloud tool wherein there is no necessity to manage this VMware infrastructure. Okay, so where whoever managing this VMware infrastructure to understand, for example, a DB admin is there, backup admin, storage admin, or a Linux admin. They need to they need to perform their administrative task on the servers. So they need to connect a vCenter server to check that server status, to configure the server and all those things. Okay. I hope for DevOps, it may not be required. We are not going to get into picture wherein to manage VMware environment.
Okay, even that the cloud related cloud associate engineer also actually DevOps on AWS on DevOps side. Is this training is required?
No, there is an AWS and Azure. There is a concept called VMware on Azure, VMware on AWS. If you are into that particular thing, then this is very much is required. Apart from other tools, if you are using cloud, is nothing but multiple tools are available. One of the tool is VMware on Azure, VMware on AWS. If you are going to work on this, the tool or administration, or for example, you are managing a Windows administration, you are managing a Linux administration on a cloud platform, then it is required, because without understanding the virtualization, you are not in a position to understand how the network, how the storage, how the system is designed, how it is going to come back, what is the background, how it is working. All those things are covered. We need to understand this virtualization. For a DevOps, I don't think so.
Okay, got it. Yeah, in cloud, especially that VM side we are going into means we have to take this training is helpful. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, got it.
Yes, Sudhakar.
Hi, Srinivas. Yeah, thank you. Srinivas, is related to the migration which you are speaking about here.
Yeah.
I mean, in place upgrade, we are doing the vSpage 6.7 to 7 versions. And as well as, are we covering the any hardware hardware upgradations, firmware upgradations also?
See, as part of this training, we are going to cover what are the prerequisites. We are going to check the compatibility matrix.
Yeah, okay.
So, for example, you are going to perform an upgrade of OS. Before performing upgrade of OS, it is mandatory requirement, whatever the hardware you are working, you need to make sure that is having a latest firmware, latest drivers. Without having a latest firmware, if you go with latest OS, definitely it is going to end up with some issues. That
Yeah,
first is we need to plan accordingly. I'm going to cover what are the checks we need to perform. We need to plan before performing the upgrade. We need to check some checks, pre-checks. Is the license available? Is the hardware is compatible? Without checking hardware compatibility, if you are trying to upgrade, it may end up with some issues, right?
yeah, got it, Shinu. So that's why I'm where I'm coming that point only. Because
Yeah,
we need to analyze with the previous state and after the state, which is recommended for, right?
exactly.
Yeah, I'm coming to that point only. Yeah, coming to the other situation, what are the tools we are covering here? And what are the troubleshootings we are going to be? Because is it covering the ESXi troubleshooting as well as the VCT troubleshooting? Or if not, what are we going to cover?
Yes, the troubleshooting purpose, as soon as, if, for example, there is a issue on ESXi host PSOD error, or some commands or some session is not working. So how we are going to execute, how we are going to connect console. If the remote tools are not working, for example, ESXi host or vCenter server, generally we are going to connect through browser. That is web client, we call it as. If the web client is not working, that remote tool is not working, the only option we need to connect and troubleshoot by connecting the console. How we are going to connect console? What are the commands we are going to execute? How to analyze the logs? All those things we are going to cover. What is the logs we need to verify? What are the things we need to verify? All those things are covered as part of this training module.
Okay, you mean to say that where logs will able to going to be analyzed?
Yeah, slash var without some logs. So the log location is the slash var log.
Yes,
Where
where
we
logs
are
also
going
are
to
going to be
find the
analyzed.
VM kernel and OSD
Yeah.
logs and all those things.
Yeah, kernel bundle and even VM bundle also will going to be, and
Yeah,
support
how to
bundle also.
export. How to export the support bundle, how we are going to create a support request.
Yes,
What
yes.
is the requirement to create a support request?
The
How we are
preliminary, I
going
mean to say you are going to cover the preliminary steps which we need to make it move to the vendor.
Yes, exactly. The trouble without troubleshooting steps, there is no meaning, right?
Yes, yes, yes. The basic steps which we need to carry forward before going to vendor.
Exactly.
Okay. Are those going to be documented or only going to be in the fly with in the video session only?
The documented in the sense we are going to provide some commands. It is up to you how you are going to practice in lab.
Yeah. Is it materialized or non materialized?
Yeah, the node files will be there and the commands will be there. I'm going to explain how we are going to syntax. We need to go through how we are going to explore the logs. I'm going to showcase and I'm going to put that in the document node file,
Okay.
just like this. For example, this is a node file. I'm going to mention what is the command ESXCLI.
Yes, yes.
What is the sub commands? What is the syntax? How we are going to get? All those things I'm going to explain. I'm going to save this node file and I'm going to upload this node file along with the record session. So you can explore these nodes and you can explore where to get the right information. I'm going to provide all the details.
Okay. Is it covered on shell commands also? On shell scripting?
Scripting, no. Only commands will be
Only
shown.
guidance.
Yes.
Guidance will be provided. Am I right?
Yes, yes. VMware Power CLI, how to execute, how to be connect, that will cover.
Okay.
Our scripting, it is all depends upon how you are going to apply the logic. Okay.
Okay. Next step going to be, what are the tools we are going to be cover here? I mean, either migration tools.
Migration tools, that's what is the conversion tool. One thing, the migration, there is no migration tool. We are going to discuss here only standalone converter, VMware standalone converter to perform P2V or V2V. And the tools, if you talk about, we are going to talk about the tools. How do we connect console? How we are going to connect a shell and all those things we are going to cover. Tools means only two tools, how the remote tools are going to work. The RV tools, what is the use of RV tools? What is the use of a putty session? What is the use of a browser? How we are going to access those tools we are going to discuss. To basic troubleshooting, basic.
Browse in the sense you are talking about WAM server and CLI activity, or we are seeing the GUI based activities. Am I correct?
Yeah, GUI based, yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Client.
Okay, then I thought some migration tools also involved here. Will you able to cover last moment or will not be those
What
things also?
migration tools you are looking for?
Like J2 connector, J2 migrations.
No. Yeah, those are the tools, plate spin, jet.
Yeah, plate spin, double decker.
Yeah, double decker, all those things, migration tools, those are used for convert one virtualization
Yes,
to
yes.
another virtualization. That's
Yeah,
what we are
P2V. I'm talking about P2V or V2V, which we are normalizing VMware connector, right? Now are we using any other tools which you are involving?
No, we are going to convert this standard VMware standalone converter. If you understand the concept, how we are going to use the one tool, the same concept it is going to work for other tool. What tool we are going to use, it depends upon the licensing, the organization requirement, but how they are going to migrate. So
Yeah, got it, Srinivas.
we need to understand how the migration is going to take place. What are the things we need to consider?
Yeah, okay.
Why should we go for plate spin? Why not the converter? Why we need to go for other Jetto migration? There are different benefits will be there. We need to use as per organization requirement.
Okay, is it cover ICM module only? Am I right? Installation configuration manager.
That's it.
There's no advanced and scaling.
No advanced. It is just.
Will it be cover any part in advanced scaling?
No, not advanced.
Will not be.
Not. We are going to cover only ICM, that installation, configuration, troubleshooting, managing the things, ESXR host, vCenter server, and P2V. How we are going to V2V, how we are going to perform upgrades, lifecycle manager and update manager. All those.
Yeah, and I gone through that module.
Yeah.
But what about day-to-day activities coverage here? Will it be taking any examples, or already existing examples will be carried forward?
Not example. I'm going to provide a scenario wherein you can correlate. For example, you are working some environment, you may get some different scenario. Day-to operation may be different for you and other engineer. We are going to discuss as per the, while I'm going through the subject, while going through the training session, you may come across one issue, and we are going to correlate how the DRS is configured in lab environment, how it is configured in live environment, how affinity rule is going to configure, how anti-affinity. The live scenarios are different compared to lab. We are going to discuss. Once you understand the basic concept of what is this feature, you can correlate in live scenario and day-to-day operations, how we are going to perform.
Okay, moreover, you're talking about host rules and VM rules, those are going to be covered?
Yes, VM version, VM tools, and how we are going to perform, what is a snapshot, and all those things, everything.
Is it covered on alarm configurations also?
Yes, alarm permissions are the default things. How to define alarm, how to integrate Active Directory. Without integration Active Directory,
yes,
it is not
Active Directory troubleshooting also. Yeah.
And all those things, right?
Yeah. Okay, Srinivas.
Okay, thank you, Sudhakar. Please unmute yourself. Any other one? Any other questions, please? You can raise hand and you can unmute yourself. Yes, sure. Yes, sure.
I have a small query regarding the lab environment access.
Okay.
So once the payment done for the course, we'll be getting the credentials for lab access, right?
Yes, so whoever registered and they are going to get details. I'm going to cover these sessions. Maybe these 2 days, most of the things are covered. Maybe next, the third session onwards, we are going to start with the installation.
Okay.
From fourth session onwards, I'm going to provide a credentials so that you are in a position to connect lab.
Okay, so we can use our personal devices for connecting the lab environment, right?
Yes. If you have a laptop, if you have a desktop, or if you have a mobile tab, also you can connect. Wherein only thing is that we need to require, you should be in a position to access remote management, remote desktop connection. That's it. Once you connect to the remote desktop, you are in a position to access lab Okay. This is a credentials we are going to provide. What is the IP we need to connect, and what is the credential to log into this jump server. Once you connect to the jump server from any device, you can connect to the remote desktop connection. Either laptop, either system or desktop or tab, whatever the device you might have.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that answers the question. Thank you.
Okay. So this is all about this course content, how this lab module are going to connect. Yes, Karthik, you can unmute and speak up.
Yeah, as you said that you are providing some lab environment to practice. How many days you are going to give access for that?
It is a 30 days. Okay. After 30 days, if you are not still need to access, you can coordinate with admin team and get additional access. But generally, whoever registered, they are going to get a 30 days lab access.
So after this 30 days, other than this live environment, so whether we want to practice ourselves, so what are the prerequisites for that to set up our own lab?
Yes. Home lab, I am
It
going
is-
to explain how we are going to set up home lab. I'm going to explain one of the session. For example, just if you have a system with a laptop or a desktop, minimum configuration should be 16 GB memory,
Okay.
500 GB storage, hard disk, i5 or AMD processor capacity, equivalent capacity, i5 or i3 also some fine. So these three components, what are the components? If you have the system, these three major components, you are ready to configure home lab by installing VMware Workstation. I can provide instructions how to configure VMware Workstation. VMware Workstation is available for 30 days, free license. For example, 30 days you completed some lab and you're pending some labs. What you can do, whatever the virtual machines you are going to create, you can keep them on a external disk and reset that laptop or a desktop again, and you can install VMware Workstation and you can continue the same lab by using the existing virtual machine files. How to do and how to configure, I can provide guidelines to prepare home lab. This is a basic requirement to work on home lab.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
If we have a 2 desktop systems, that's more than enough. One server you can connect by using one storage server, one ESXi host, wherein you can configure multiple systems. That is also ESXi host is available for 60 days, whereas in VMware Workstation is available only 30 days. Generally, if you home lab, if you are planning to prepare, one desktop can be configured as a ESXi host. Once you configure ESXi host, within ESXi host, you can create your own lab that is available until 60 days. And one more desktop you can configure for storage purpose. ISKC storage, ISKC initiator, software ISKC initiator, how we are going to perform, how we are going to set up, all those things guidelines I can provide if you want. That is home lab preparation. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Srinivas, one more thing.
Yeah, sure.
If you need to extend the lab access after 30 days, we need to do any payment again after that.
You need to coordinate with admin team. That details right now is not available. We didn't come across whatever the 30 days is more than enough. So you are going to practice the lab within 30 days, and then whatever the recording videos available for lifetime, you can watch the videos and you can practice the same thing in our home lab or else in a live environment if you are get to access. If any special requirement, you can try to access the lab means you can coordinate with admin team. They will provide the details.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other queries before proceeding further? So as part of this training, as I mentioned, it is a daily 2-hour session. Okay. So we covered self-introduction, learner's introduction, explain the course content, that is done. Interact with the learners. So that is also done. Question answers, that is also done. Now we are going to proceed with the course content. The actual topics we are going to explain. Before proceeding, before understanding this virtualization, we need to understand some basic concepts. Okay, what is this basic concept? How this hardware OS and application users relation? What is this user? Why we are designing, why we are loading a Windows operating system, why we are choosing a server hardware, on what basis exactly? So it is everything is depends upon how many users, what is the user requirement. For example, I am the user, I am going to access some application. To fulfill that user requirement, how I am going to provide to fulfill the user requirement, what application I need to do. If I need to install application, that application is going to install only certain OS. It may be that application pre-requirement is OS. This OS should be there. OS is ready. To run the OS, again, where this OS is going to run? On a device. For example, I need to use Google Pay application. The Google Pay application means that application, I'm the user. I'm going to use the Google Pay. To get that Google Pay, what application is required? That Google Pay application is going to available on a mobile. It may be Mac OS or it may be Android mobile. But what I'm saying is here, I'm saying is an Android mobile, Mac mobile. What is that Mac and Android? It is an operating system where this operating system is installing on a hardware. So for each and everything, it is a hierarchy. It is going to come from the user requirement, how to fulfill user requirement. So that's where we are going to come into picture. We need to understand how this resources are getting shared. For example, I'm using my laptop. If you see, go to this particular, my laptop processes. How many applications are in use in my laptop? There are multiple applications. Here, what you need to understand, all these applications are running on a OS called Windows 10 or Windows 11. What is this Windows 10 and Windows 11 is doing action? It is giving the resources to the application. See here, Google Chrome is running and it is using how much CPU? 0.4% of CPU. This much of memory, this much of disk, and this much of network. Where this? This is available under the layer of hardware. This hardware layer, what it is doing? The hardware is having some CPU, RAM, storage, network. Where this all is connected on the motherboard. So this is a hardware layer, and the OS layer is giving some portion of resources taking from the hardware layer and giving to the each and every application. What is happening here? The OS is performing a resource sharing. Whatever the resources are available underneath an hardware layer, from that hardware layer, it is giving resources to each and application. Who is giving? The OS layer is acting as a sharing the resources. Some CPU to one application, some CPU to other application. So that's there. This layer understanding how this hardware, OS, applications, and user. What is the relation? We need to understand OSI model, the 7 layers, and IP classes are mandatory to proceed with this training VMware administration. Okay. So IP classes, I'm going to discuss about port numbers. What is this port numbers? Application port numbers. Okay. So these are the basic things we need to understand. How the user is getting a required application, how the resources is assigned to that particular user. Everything is managed by this particular OS. From where this resources is getting? From the hardware. This is a basic understanding. If you understand this basic concept, now this OS layer is replaced with virtualization OS. These applications are replaced with virtual machines. So simple as the same hardware. Here in this OS, right now I am using Windows 10 OS, and Windows 10 OS is giving the resources to my application Google Chrome, my Edge browser, or my different applications. Now, what virtualization is going to do? I'm going to replace this OS with virtualization layer, virtualization OS. And this virtualization layer is giving resources. What resources? This hardware resources to the application. What is this application? I'm replacing these applications with virtual machines. How we are going to create virtual systems? That's what all about this virtualization topic. And how we are going to manage that hardware, how we are going to manage that virtual machines, how we are going to manage. It's all about this virtualization training session, VMware administration, how we are going to provide networking, how we are providing storage, all those things. So why we are creating hardware? If the physical system, no matter, we are talking about virtual machine. Once virtual machine is available, we are going to load OS. Again, these three concepts are common. At the hardware layer and virtualization layer, we are going to discuss about all these virtualization concepts. Once as a virtualization concept is done, OS administrator, if it is Windows OS administrator is going to manage that Windows server. If it is a Linux OS, Linux administrator is going to manage. If the Linux OS managing the Linux server, the server is not working properly and they need to explore where this. If it is a physical server, he is going to connect physical server, check that what is happening. Nowadays, all are virtual. Now, that's the reason we need to understand who are administrator, backup, or Linux or Windows. They need to understand. Simply having Windows administration is not going to work in current upcoming trends. So we should know different technologies. One of the beautiful technologies is that virtualization. Why virtualization is very much important? Because everything is virtualized. After virtualization, now it is a cloud. Even cloud, we are saying that we are instance and the front end, but back end, it is going to come from some kind of virtualization. We are not sure what virtualization they are going to use, but we are going to manage again Windows administration on cloud platform. We are going to access to Windows server. Background, it is a cloud platform. Underneath cloud platform, there is a virtualization. Okay, so we are going to understand what is the relation by going through this physical. What is the hardware layer? Why it is resources sharing? The resource sharing, how it is happening to that applications. Here in virtualization, that applications will be replaced as a virtual machines. For the same virtual machines, the resources sharing is happening. How we are going to manage that resource sharing, how we are going to assign those resources, that's all talks about this virtualization VMware administration. Okay, hope it is clear. Any doubt? That's what we discussed about. Understand the resources sharing concept. How the resource, what is the purpose of resource sharing? Okay, the same resource sharing concept, only virtualization came into picture. Okay, coming to the next point, system or a server or a desktop. How can I say? First of all, what is the difference between desktop and server? Can anyone? In a simple layman understanding, what is the difference between desktop versus server? Yeah, please unmute yourself and you can speak up.
Yeah, Srinivas. Desktop will service a single core subject, single core component, and server will component multi-core component.
Yes.
As well as multiple servers, multiple users can able to connect, multiple applications can able to connect to the service. And as desktop will not give the service for that much as
exactly.
expected.
Thank you, Sudhir. See, desktop is nothing but it is a single user interface. How I am calling the system? For example, I am using the laptop. Laptop hardware is meant for desktop. Why? Because the laptop is not going to run 365 days. If you run the laptop for 48 hours, it is going to unresponsive state after some time. So it is very much important understanding how the server hardware, what is the difference between server hardware and desktop hardware. If my laptop having a system, I'm going to call my laptop as a system. If I'm going to install Windows 10, I'm going to say that it is a desktop OS because I installed desktop operating system. Windows 10 is a single user interface. If I install Windows 2020-22, that is a server operating system on the same laptop, I'm going to say that it is a server system. It is a server. What type of hardware? Is it compatible or not compatible? Keep it aside for certain time. Why I'm calling as a system? We need to understand at a hardware layer. At hardware layer, I need to understand a system is nothing but it is having a 5 major components. What are the 5 major components? Motherboard, processor, memory, storage, and network. These 5 components, if I have that particular device, I'm going to call it as a system. What kind of operating system you are going to load? Based on the operating system, I'm going to call this is a server system or a server or a desktop, isn't it? So the major thing what we need to understand, what is a system? System is nothing but a 5 major components. Having a motherboard, what is a motherboard function? Wherein we are going to connect the components, either processor or memory and storage and network. These 4 components, major components are connected on the motherboard, and we are going to get a display so that we are going to view whatever the actions we are going to perform. So I'm going to call these 5 components as a system. When I'm going to call it as the same system as a server, if I'm going to load a server operating system on the same system, I'm going to call that a server. When I'm going to call it as a desktop on same system, same system means system is nothing but a 5 major components. Okay, if I install desktop operating system, that same system I'm going to call it as a desktop, right? So we need to segregate and we need to understand how, when we are going to call it as a system, when we are going to call it a server, when we are going to call it as a desktop. And the same thing, it is going to come as difference between desktop and server motherboard. For each and every layer, we discussed about 5 major components. We are going to explore these 5 major components in detail. Okay, each and everything. Coming to that, is my laptop is compatible for server? What is the meaning of server? Server is nothing but a multi-user interface. Multiple users are going to connect. Can this desktop operating system can access multi-users? No, it is a single user interface. So it can run only specific application, and that user is going to log off and is going to shut down. But whereas in server, number of users are going to connect around the clock. So the server should be up and running to fulfill that user requirements. How many users, what time user is going to connect it, we are not sure. So as depends upon how many users are going to connect, what applications are they are going to use, what is a load, according to that number of users, according to the load, we are going to choose the system. What is the system again? The 5 major components. According to user requirements, we need to choose. Okay, so what is this motherboard? What we need to understand before going for virtualization on this particular system. If you go to here, I'm going to see here, this is a typical motherboard. As part of virtualization, 2 components you need to understand. Those 2 components are socket, slot. What is a socket? Socket is nothing but where we are going to install processor. Do you agree? So how we are going to choose a server motherboard? How many sockets it is going to support? How much CPU it can support? How much processor capacity it can support? If the motherboard is having only 2 sockets, that means I can install only 2 processors. And at the same time, on another motherboard, if you see another motherboard, there are 4 sockets. What is this? The rectangle, the square box, whatever the square box you are able to see here, that is a socket. Why we need to understand socket? Because in virtualization, the license and whatever the topics we are going to discuss further, we are talking about resources, compute resources. What is the CPU capacity is available on my server? If you don't know how many sockets are available on the motherboard, by looking at the specification of the server, you are going to come to know how many sockets are available. Okay, at the same time, the slots. What is a slot? We are going to call as a memory slot, a DIMM slot, different technology we are going to use, but the basic understanding is how much memory I can install on this motherboard. How much memory? If each slot, how it is going to support, how much capacity it is going to support, and number of slots available to install the memory. So it is all depends upon motherboard. The motherboard, if it is a higher capacity motherboard, it can support 4 sockets and multiple memory slots. By looking at the motherboard, by looking at the specification of the server, the 2 things we need to understand: how many sockets, what is the maximum CPU capacity we can achieve from this specification, server model specification, and at the same time, memory module specification we need to get. So hope it is clear on the motherboard part, why we need to understand this motherboard. Okay, the motherboard, I said 5 major, one of the 5 major component is a motherboard. Without motherboard, I am not in a position to identify what is a socket, what is a memory, where we are going to install these 2 components. As we are going to understand, what we are going to learn about virtualization, it more talks about it has to get maximum resources. What is this resources? Maximum CPU, maximum memory. How we are going to get maximum CPU, maximum memory? That's what we need to understand. What is a motherboard specification? From the motherboard specifications, what is the 2 major components? One is socket. Socket is nothing but where we are going to insert the processor. Okay, that's what. See here, socket and processor. Now, in this processor, there are different terminologies are going to come into picture. What are the different terminologies? Core. What is a core? Dual core, quad core, octa core. My mobile is octa core processor. What does it mean, octa core? Can anyone? What does it mean, octa core? What does it mean, a dual core, quad core processor?
It's a number of logical CPUs.
Exactly. It is number of processor which can support on the single processor. That's what we need to explore. See here. Here Intel Xeon, this is a server processor, what we are exploring. What is here? See here, this particular processor supports 12 cores. Why we need to understand this 12 cores? How much CPUs we are going to get from a physical processor? Number of instructions, number of cycles per a given second. That means it is having a physical processor, only one. The physical processor going to insert in this particular socket. That means in this motherboard, 2 sockets are available, right? I'm going to install 2 processors. So how many total CPU count I'm going to get? I'm going to get a total CPU count of 2 each processor as per this model. If this model I'm going to insert, if I'm going to insert this particular model, each processor support 12 cores, right? 12 cores I'm going to insert on this particular motherboard, where this motherboard having a two sockets. Having a two sockets in the sense I can install two processors. So coming back to this, two processors into 12 core each. So how many processors I'm going to get? Total for 24 CPUs. What is a core? Core is nothing but a logical processor. Within a physical processor, there are suppose 12 cores, means one processor, one physical processor act as a 12 cores, 12 logical processors. Is it clear? Any doubt? For example, on the same motherboard, if I talk about this particular another motherboard, it is having 4 sockets. If I am going to install all 4 processors in each socket, how many CPUs I am going to get? How many sockets? 4 sockets. I am going to install each processor. What capacity each processor is having? 12. So what I am going to get? 48 processors, 48 CPUs, 48 logical processors I am going to get the capacity. Any confusion? Is it clear? Because we are going to work going forward and virtualization, why virtualization, we'll discuss on that. Before going for virtualization, we need to understand the hardware components. One of the hardware components we need to understand very clearly about the processor. What is a socket? And how much CPU capacity I'm going to get from this particular server model. Because I need to give the resources to number of servers, number of virtual servers. If I'm not going to have number of total max CPU capacity, I'm not in a position to share the resources to my virtual systems. So that's the reason, as we are working on virtualization, going to learn, we need to understand what is the processor, what are the technical terminologies available under virtualization. So we need to understand socket. We are not going to see the physical motherboard of the server, but from the specifications of the server model, they are going to mention 2 sockets, 4 sockets, like that. That means, oh, this motherboard, this server has a 4 sockets. How many processors I can install? 4 processors I can install. What kind of capacity is going to support? That specification also available. So we are going to explore this option and understanding the processor. The next point is hyperthreading. What is this hyperthreading? Hyperthreading is a feature wherein whatever the CPU capacity I am going to get. For example, in these 2 scenarios, in one scenario, in 2 socket scenario, I am going to get 24 CPU. By default, whatever the processor I am going to install, the processor supports threads. Number of threads it is going to support. What is the threads? Threads is nothing but, again, the motherboard has a feature of hyperthreading enable. As soon as hyperthreading is enabled on the motherboard, at the same time, by default, processor supports hyperthreading. The same 24 processors, the same processor, whatever the processor I'm going to install, the same 24 CPUs becomes 48 CPUs. 48 CPUs. That means I'm going to get a max performance from my hardware. I'm going to get a max performance from this hardware. What it is going to 48 becomes? As soon as enabling hyperthreading, after enabling hyperthreading, I'm going to get 48 CPUs. Earlier, before hyperthreading, it is 24 CPU. How I'm going to get 24 CPU? The motherboard has a 2 sockets. I'm installing a processor which are having the capacity of 12 cores each. So that if I install 2 into each processor 12 cores, that means I'm going to get 24 CPUs. If I enable hyperthreading, then it is going to become the same 24 CPU becomes 48 CPUs. That means I am going to get my OS layer, I am going to see the maximum capacity. As I am getting a maximum capacity, I am going to use more resources to my virtualization environment. Hope it is clear. Any doubt on this? What we need to understand from this processor concept, what is a circuit? What is a processor? What is a core? What is a hyperthread? These 4 technical terms we need to understand under the processor. Okay, this will be discussed while installing about virtualization layer. Again, I'm going to stress these points so that you are going to correlate why we are discussing about this physical component. Hope it is clear. Any doubt? Silence says no. I'm going to proceed further. So this is the explanations. See here, same explanations are provided here. 2 into 20 party logical cores. If a processor and motherboard supports hyperthreading, 40 logical cores becomes 80 logical cores. How it is logical cores, how it is threading supports, everything is available under CPU specification of the respective model. See this particular model, Intel Xeon, it supports 56 cores. As soon as hyperthreading is enabled, it becomes 112 CPUs. Okay. So this is our features, different capacity, different configurations. What model it is going to use, how many cores we are going to get, what is the motherboard support, what model it supports motherboard, that also matters. Sorry. Okay. So these are all the processor differences. Whatever the understanding, dual core means it is a 2 cores, quad core means 4 cores, octa cores means 8. Generally, these terminologies we are using in a normal desktop processors. Generally, in server processors, we are not going to use. For understanding purpose, what is a dual core means? It is a single processor chip. Even in your mobile device, you are going to call it as my mobile is running with octa core processor. What does it mean? My mobile is going to have only one physical chip, but it acts as a 8 logical processors. That is octa-core. Okay, so we need to understand these concepts. You can go through that 2 circuits. That's what I provided clear explanation in this document. This document is available along with recorded session. You can explore different scenarios so that you will get a different concepts, different scenarios. You can correlate what is a CPU model in your live environment, okay, and understand what is a low model. For example, in my lab environment, we have R630, Dell R630. This is a model. I'm going to get specification. I'm not in a position to understand what is this. I'm not in a position to physical look, right? So I'm going to go with the Dell 630 specifications. So see here. What is the model it supports? Processor, Intel Xeon E5-2600. Let me go with E5-2600 processor. E5-2600. It is an Intel Xeon E5 processor. What is this supports? What is the capacity? See here, Intel Xeon processor E5 family. There's different. See here, total core 6 cores, total cores. One model supports 4 cores. One model supports 4 cores. Different configuration. As per specification of this model, it supports how many sockets? See here, how many sockets on this motherboard? R630 has 2 sockets only. That means I can install only 2 processors. This is a way we need to understand. By looking at the server model as a VMware administrator, we need to explore physical servers more frequently. So we need to explore what is a physical server, what is the specifications we need to understand, especially how much memory, how much CPU I can get it from this model. Okay, how much memory it can support. See here, up to 1.5 TB capacity. How many slots are available? 24 DIMM slots are available. What is the slot of each? I'm going to come back to this memory configuration. This is a CPU. I hope it is clear. CPU. Now I'm going to explain about memory. The same motherboard, I'm going to come back. Now, if you see this particular slots, white and black slots, rectangle slots. These slots, how many slots are available? And each slots, how much capacity it can support. It depends on that. I can get maximum availability memory for this particular system, for the particular server. So I need to identify what is the capacity. If I install, for example, I have 10 slots available. If I install 4 GB modules, memory modules, I'm going to get a 40 GB. As per the specification of this R630, how much memory? 24 DIMM slots available. And each DIMM slot support 4 GB, 8 GB, 16, 32, 64. If I install all these 24 slots with the 64 GB modules, I'm going to get a max capacity of 1.5 TB of memory from this particular server. Okay. Generally, while purchasing the server, it may be less component, maybe 256 GB, 512 GB. Later, there is a requirement, need to upgrade the hardware. As a VMware administrator, you should be in a position to understand what is the specification, what is the max capacity it can support. Then we need to come back to the specification of the server and understand what is the DIMM slot, how much capacity it can support. We need to provide these details. Without understanding, for example, CPU need to upgrade. What are the CPU it can support? How many sockets are there? These two things are very much important to understand, because we are going to provide max resources capacity to virtualization layer. How we are going to provide max virtualization. Okay, these two things. Hope it is clear. Any doubt? Any clarification? So we discussed about, what are the things we discussed about? Motherboard, we discussed processor and memory. Now I'm going to discuss about storage. What is the storage? What is the storage? What do you know about storage? We are going to assign as disk. For example, disk is there. My system is my laptop is having 16 GB memory and i7 processor. While coming to that hard disk, it is a traditional hard disk. You might know what is the difference between SSD and traditional disk. You might purchase a SD card. In SD card, there is a specification, class 4, class 6, class 10. What is the difference? What is the difference? Class can anyone? What is this class? What is meant for this class? Why we need to consider? Read and write operations, IO operations, maximum read and write operations. Whatever the SD card we are going to use in our mobile, it is having a class specification. That means for a given second, how much data it can read and write. For example, class 10 maybe 300 Mbps per second, 300 Mbps per second. And whereas in class 6, it is going to support only 150. Okay, so while coming to the storage, we are working on a server storage and there are multiple users. For each server, we talk about multiple users. Now I am talking about virtualization. Virtualization is going to provide multiple servers, multiple virtual servers. Again, each server having a multiple users. So understand the hierarchy, how it is coming. So one server, we understood that it is supports multiple users. Each user requires some resource capacity. Now I'm going to use the same hardware to install multiple virtual servers. On top of each virtual server, there are certain number of users are going to access. What is the resource requirement for individual server, virtual server? How resource capacity is going to underneath it is going to come. So I need to make sure the resources, what is the resources I'm going to assign to this particular virtualization, everything should provide a max capacity. I provided CPU and memory max capacity. If I'm not going to provide a disk with a higher IO rates, what will happen? There is a performance issue. Read and write operations is not going to expect as required. So why we need to talk about storage? The storage, we need to make sure only one component, higher IO rates, higher IO, and what is another component? Less latency. These two components we need to understand. What is, for example, traditional hard disk, the Seagate or Western Digital traditional hard disk, number of RPM, revolutions per minute, and data it is going to write and read, and by spindle which will rotate, and the data object is keep on move. Now with the latest technologies came into picture, SSD, after SSD now NVMe. Okay, different technologies are coming in picture to improve the IO operations and less latency. So what is this? NVMe is the latest technology which is going to come into picture, is currently in use. SSD. Now server hardware, coming to the server hardware, most traditional hardware, it is a traditional hard disk which having a maximum RPMs so that it can support. If the traditional hard disk is not there, their next level is SSD and next one is NVMe. Now coming to the server storage, are we going to use a local storage? Are we going to use any other share? Generally central storage. Central storage. Why we central storage we are going to use? We are going to use a central storage to protect the data loss. Okay. So coming to this virtualization, understanding the storage requirement, there are three major components are going to come into picture. What is this? Direct data storage, that is DAS. One more is NAS. One more is SAN. Some servers now virtualization is booming very drastically, and they are working in a centralized storage. They can choose according to the organization requirement, according to organization infrastructure. Whereas in DOS is nothing but direct data storage. Under direct data storage, the disk can be connected as SCSI controller, PATA, SATA, different hard disks are available. Each hard disk is going to provide some specification, read and write operations, IO operations. Our main intention is to get a max performance. That is our main intention. At the same time, we need to make sure single point of failure, because one server is failing because of storage, that is a different story. Now we are going to work on virtualization. Virtualization is going to provide multiple virtual servers, multiple servers. Each server is going to provide different function. If underlying storage is not effective, all whatever the servers are running on my virtualization, everything is going to impact. The server performance is going to impact. That's the reason we need to understand what is the storage underlying. That's the reason I mentioned these 5 major components. The 5 major components, that's the storage is one of the things. What storage for virtualization layer? What kind of storage we need to accommodate? And enterprise environment, most of the enterprise environments are going to run on SAN environment. How the storage administrator is going to provide, how the storage is going to provide, it is depends upon storage administrator. But we as a VMware administrator, we should know how we are going to get the storage. That centralized storage, that shared storage, how we are going to get, how effective is that? What is the performance metrics? What is the performance metrics? We need to make sure two performance metrics, that is higher IO operations and less latency. These two are important factors under storage. Hope it is clear. Any doubt? Okay. Moving to this, storage is done. Next important component is network. There are certain components we need to understand what is a network. Okay. Before going for network, I'm going to discuss about some more components on these three concepts. Direct attached storage, NAS, and SAN. What is required for DAS? Is there any existing infrastructure is required? No, it is connected directly to the server. So locally, I can say that whatever the DAS, I can consider it as a local storage, because the connectivity will be happening within the server. That's the reason I'm going to mention as a direct attached storage. What is a NAS? In the direct attached storage, what is going to happen if the server hardware, some issue is there? I am not in a position to access that storage. That's where we are going to come under picture that shared storage. What is shared storage? Shared or central storage. What is the central storage? What central storage? Central storage is nothing but it will be there on a central location. The storage administrator is going to manage. What is NAS? One type of NAS storage. So wherein it can use the existing infrastructure. There is no separate infrastructure is required to establish NAS communication. We can use the existing network infrastructure to establish, to get the data, to get the store the data and all those things by using the NAS. Whereas in SAN, it requires a separate infrastructure. SAN works on fiber optic communication. So we need to make sure the server has some kind of component that is called HBA card, post bus adapter. How it looks like? See here, this is a HBA card, post bus adapter. Generally, enterprise environment, most of the enterprise environments runs on SAN network, SAN storage only. How it is going to connect each hardware, whatever the hardware we are going to use for virtualization, that hardware is going to equip with this particular card. This is a post bus adapter card, we call it as post bus adapter for us to establish fiber optic communication. So how it looks like? This card is presented or not, we need to make sure, and the cable are going to connect. This data center operation guy is going to connect. Apart from HBA card, to establish communication, fiber optic switches are required to establish from storage server to each ESXi host. So the communication to establish, to get that SAN storage, we need to establish complete separate infrastructure. We cannot use existing infrastructure. So there's a lot of cost involvement. At the same time, we are going to get a max IO operations and very less latency. That is the beauty of SAN storage. That's the reason if any business critical applications are running in any enterprise environment, they are going to prefer the SAN storage. Okay. NAS storage, where they are going to use it is with some limitations, some advantages, some disadvantages. What is the advantages? There is no cost involved. Existing network infrastructure can be used to establish communication between the client and server. Who is the client? client is one of the ESXi host and server is the storage server. Between storage server and client, the communication is going to happen over the existing infrastructure. There is no separate infrastructure is required. The same network communication is going to use to establish connection between the storage server to the client. Okay, so how we are going to use, how we are going to choose the storage, it is all depends upon only two factors. That two factors is nothing but IO and less latency, these two things. Any doubt? Network I am going to discuss tomorrow. So this is all about today's session. We discussed about all the topics. So only one topic, networking, I need some more time so to explain, because these five major components, out of five major components, network is one of the critical component. Each and everything is going to depend upon network. Okay, network I am going to repeat multiple times. So whenever it is going to come into picture, I am going to stress networking concept very specifically. Why? Because it plays a vital role in this virtualization. Without understanding networking concepts, it's very difficult to establish communication in different layers. So I'm going to stress about networking more in depth. So what is a networking requirement? Everyone should have a minimum basic knowledge of how the LAN communication is going to happen. What is a NIC card? What is a cable connection? What is a switch? I'm going to discuss about these components under networking so that it is going to give some idea. In virtualization, main important thing is that we need to visualize the physical components so that you are in a position to imagine. In a virtualization world, you need to imagine the switch, the physical switch will be replaced with virtual switch. Physical motherboard will be replaced with virtual motherboard. If you are not able to visualize what is a physical component, you are not in a position to imagine in virtualization environment. Hope it is clear. Before concluding this session, one more time I'm stressing here, if we have any queries, you can call on support@logiclabstech.com. If you are not part of WhatsApp group, you can send a mail communication support@logiclabs.com, or else you can send a mail communication to Srinivas@logiclabstech.com, so that you are in a position to get a latest updates through WhatsApp. So whoever part of WhatsApp group, they are going to get this recorded session link to access to review this recorded session and this notes file as well. So be part of WhatsApp group. If you are not in a position to join WhatsApp group, please send a mail communication to either Srinivas@logiclabs.com or support@logiclabs.com. At the same time, you can contact our admin team on provided numbers. Okay, any clarification before closing the session? Questions, please. Any queries? How the session is going on? Is it fast? Is it slow? Or is it okay?
Yeah, Srinivas, it's okay to move forward
Okay, thank you, Sudhakar.
and informative.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Srinivas.
Okay. Yes, please. Someone raise their hand. Who is this? Allowed to talk. Yes, please. You are allowed to talk. You can unmute and talk, please.
Yeah, I missed the first part. Just want to understand. So, is it the daily call or how often it is happening?
It is going to happen Saturday. This is a weekend batch, Saturday and Sunday, starting from 6 p.m. IST to 8 p.m. IST, 2-hour session on Saturday and Sunday.
Okay, only on Saturday and Sunday. So I see like it's a 30 days. So 30 days in the sense overall only during
Not
that
30
period.
days, 30 hours. It is overall to cover these topics, 30 hours. So, and lab is available for 30 days.
Okay.
The
Okay. Thank
lab
you.
is 24/7, 30 days available. Once the session is done, you can connect to the lab and practice over the 30 days.
Got it.
Okay. If you
Yep.
have
Thank
any,
you.
yeah, thank you, Karthik. So if you have any queries, please call on these numbers and be part of WhatsApp group wherein you are going to get updates, record session links, and any queries or any updates. Everything will be provided in that WhatsApp group. If you are not part of WhatsApp groups, please send a mail communication to support@logiclabs.com, or else you can send a mail to srinivas@logiclabs.com as well. Okay. Thanks for your time. If no other queries, concerns, we are good to close. Thanks for your participation. Have a great learning. Bye. Take care.
Thank you.